With Season the Malignant being 1 week away, I thought I'd give my favorite leveling build for each class going into Season 1. Now I want to preface this by saying I haven't seen any class balance changes yet, so things could change in the next week. For build guides, check out your favorite community site like Maxroll or Icy Veins. I have a link to Maxroll leveling tier list down in the description. I have no affiliation with the site, I just enjoy their builds. But icyveins.com is also a solid site when looking for builds if you want another option, and I've even used them in the past. Let's kick things off with Barbarian. Now for Barbarian, Hammer the Ancients or Hoda is the build that I prefer to level with. Now for this build, it's important that you get your offensive aspect of Ancestral Force as early as you can. This will increase your AoE and really just your overall damage. This aspect can be found in the Sunken Ruins dungeon in Skosglen with a suggested level of 15. You can do it much earlier. If you're on hardcore, obviously you'd be a little more careful, but you can definitely do it much before 15. At the time of making this video, there is a bug with this aspect where the surrounding damage is much higher than intended. As an example, if it says it's going to give you 35% on the splash damage, it adds actually giving you 135% on the damage. So it's more beneficial to slam next to your target than actually hit them. Even if it was to be fixed for the patch though, I think it will stay my favorite build to play. It's also a great build at 50 plus when people consider leveling to end and when you're working towards endgame. Up next is Rogue. Now Twisting Blades is the build that I prefer and what you're probably going to see universally for rogues. This is a great build that transitions right into endgame as it's the same build you would use for that. Now you can continue using the same Twisting Blades that you level with, or you can swap to a slight variation, which is the Shadow Trap variation. Not much of a difference, it's really just swapping out one talent for Shadow Trap. Both builds are strong, so pick the playstyle you like more. Pure Twisting Blades requires you to be a little more mindful on positioning and have your daggers return to you through mobs, whereas Shadow Trap has large AoE burst in the form of a cooldown. While not as much of a priority as Ancestral Force on Hoda Barb, the Blade Dancer's offensive aspect is the best aspect you can get for this spec. You can find it in the dungeon Halal's Vigil in Skosglen. Let's move on to another great build that transitions right into endgame, and that's Bone Spear Necromancer. This is a build that has high damage, and it transitions into endgame. What more could you ask for? This was actually the first class I played in Diablo 4. I blindly followed a guide, and after some trials, I got a little more mindful on whether I would sacrifice minions. Early in leveling, keep your golems if you're having problems while running solo. Typically in group play, minions being sacrificed didn't give me too many issues though. Splintering offensive aspect is the power that you're going to want to snag when you can. It can be found in Golron Slums and Dry Steps. Moving on to Druids. For this class I'm actually going to give you two different builds, and that's because majority of Druids' powerful aspects are not in the Codex. That can make things feel a little frustrating at first, but power through it because this class is a ton of fun when you get a build online. With no legendary drops, I found more success leveling with the Tornado build. This is a solid build that has great tools, that doesn't rely on any legendary powers. There are a few aspects like resource aspect of the Umbral from the Champion's Demise dungeon and Dry Steps that really help out, but again, not required. You can run without any powers. If you're lucky enough to get a drop of the Shockwave offensive aspect, the Pulverized build is fantastic. It's a build with great AoE and survivability. Both builds are great choices, just depends on your luck with some legendary power drops. Last but certainly not least is Sorcerer. I haven't played this class a ton admittedly, but the build I would go with is Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning is a build that you can get online pretty quickly as the core, Chain Lightning, is in the second group of abilities, so you can get going pretty quick. If you go into the season with your renown stuff already taken care of beforehand, then you'll be able to get enough points to have Chain Lightning at level 1, and you can level pretty quickly. There's one aspect that would be nice for you to have, but I don't think it's really necessary, and that's recharging aspect from Zenith and Fractured Peaks. Well, hopefully this helps you find a build going into Season 1. Again, things could shift with any sort of class balance changes that come out on the 18th, so keep an eye on your favorite community site like Maxroll or Icy Veins. I'll also have a video up shortly before the season of some community resources that I found helpful that will hopefully help you as well. Until next video guys, take care and keep slaying demons.